The NeoGAF message board is one of the few places where passionate gamers and developers come together to do what groups of people often do. They gossip, swap opinions, share stories, and engage in the most cherished of all geek pastimes, squabble over tech. For gamers, NeoGAF has become, quite literally, a perfect little world. Stay with us as Shift peeks into the evolving relationship between the fan, the developer, and the business of video games.
There's this level of anonymity or lack of reciprocity where you can do a bunch of things and be fairly certain you're never going to get caught.
Also, NeoGAF founder Tyler Malka discusses his remarkable second life due to moderating gaming's most exclusive club.
Because of the sort of financial freedom I have, and because I can run NeoGAF from anywhere, I'm pretty much planning to sell my car, ditch my apartment, put my stuff in storage, and just travel the world for a few years.
Follow game trailers in our mini documentary series Shift as we go beyond the day-to-day news bites and shift focus into the hearts of the stories that shape your favorite pastime. Forbes magazine calls Austin, Texas, the 10th fittest city in the United States. It's young, it's hipster, and it's also home to a rapidly expanding tech industry. So it's fitting that the aptly named Silicon Hills is currently the base of one of the most influential message boards in the video game industry.
I'm Tyler Malka, founder and owner, operator of NeoGAF.com. What do you want to know?
So here's the thing. NeoGAF is a message board run for gamers by gamers. And with its 118,000 registered users capturing the pulse of the industry by the second, NeoGAF becomes a compulsion for information hounds.
Well, I constantly have it open, so it depends on how often I can refresh, right? I don't have the auto refresh on because that'd be a little, I think, annoying on our internet bandwidth. But I would say pretty often. I mean, anytime I go back to my browser, I probably hit refresh and see what's bubbled up to the top.
I go there too often. I can look up my profile and see what my average posts per day. I think I average something like 6 or 7 posts a day, which is not to say I really do post there. I used to post there a lot.
How many times do you check it a day?
That's a disgusting question. I don't want to answer. Well, I mean, not hundreds,
you were
but
about to say hundreds.
I wouldn't.
Wow.
Frequently. Like, it is a in the morning when I wake up sort of thing, after email and other things like that to see if anything's happened. It is a during the workday, obviously. I mean, it's like, it happens quite a bit.
NeoGAF is sort of a hub where people who are hardcore gamers, enthusiasts, the press, and the industry can all come together kind of on even grounds. At the same time, we discourage pandering to anyone based on who they are, and we want to focus on what they're saying.
It's no wonder that the gaming press has put NeoGAF on the high value list. When action happens in the industry, there's reaction, and NeoGAF captures it.
Well, there's a recent example when I did a blog on EA defending Electronic Arts and some of their business practices, because I think they're a business like any other. Valve is just better at how they present it and how they engage the customer than EA. And one of the users on there said, I wish Cliffy would stop talking for a while. And I dove in and in all caps yelled at the guy, "Too bad, motherfucker." And then the entire internet just went, damn!
Things break faster on NeoGAF than they can on a news website. They just do. And we're really strict about whether something's a rumor or something is based on factual information, like that. But it happens very quickly.
NeoGAF's crowdsourced and fact-checked information gathering has made it a crucial one-stop shop for everyone focused on keeping pace with the industry.
Yeah, if it's important, it's floating up. And if it's not important, it drops off so fast.
That's right.
Stuff that's not critical and people aren't doing is gone. And you will not find it.
No, and when you're in the industry, I imagine you guys, because whenever I'm working on a game or we've announced a game, you kind of get depressed if it gets knocked off that first page, and every now and then it drops away, and then it's back. You're like, thank fucking God. It's like, oh, it was a blip.
NeoGAF isn't beholden to video game advertisers. It's quite literally a hangout spot that gamers simply enjoy going to.
Publishers don't like the flow of information kind of happening outside the parameters of the traditional press, because the traditional press is beholden to publishers in a lot of ways, in that they have to, in order to maintain their access to pre-release coverage, interviews, previews, review copies prior to a game's release, they have to stay on good terms with publishers, and that's an element of control. And so when you remove those layers and you just have things being leaked or things being discussed in a more reality-based way, you could say, publishers tend to not be happy about that, and they'll make threats, they'll threaten to blacklist you from PR lists, and we're not on any PR lists to begin with.
So, what's the secret to NeoGAF? In order to understand that, you have to go back to the roots of where it all started.
I started posting on the GAF or NeoGAF or whatever we're calling it these days. God, it must have been like 7 or 8 years ago, roughly around the time of Gears 1.
I was talking to Jeff Keighley, of all people, probably 2004 or 5. And I was talking to Jeff about some rumor, and he goes, "Oh, well, GAF is all over that rumor." And I said, "Who's GAF?"
It was part of Gaming Age, and it was its own forum, and there was a interesting group of freelance journalists and EGM-related people, Patrick Klepek and a bunch of other folks back in the day.
Malka took control of the failing Gaming Age message boards in 2004, raising $2,000 from its dedicated community. Restructuring servers and renaming the site to NeoGAF, Tyler's focus on minimally obtrusive advertising provided a model that would pay off in the long haul.
I was able to retain the community and kind of build it up on my own terms without obtrusive advertisements, without too many server problems, and gone from there.
I think it succeeded because it has managed over the years to accumulate a pretty good brain trust of people, enthusiasts who are very enthusiastic about games.
I've been told over the years by people who've moderated GAF and don't moderate GAF anymore, or some that do, you'd be utterly stunned who some of the posters are that you're interacting with.
Right.
And that they are constantly surprised, and that they are always surprised by the posters that they ban too, like who they actually are in real life.
There's a hazing period if you haven't really paid attention to what the community's like and how to contribute in a positive way. And it's self-policing in a way. If you like it long enough to stick around and you've been reading the conversations, you're not going to make a mistake that can get you banned.
There are like thousands of developers on GAF, but most of them are just remain incognito.
So my experience with GAF is that I've been fortunate enough to be a visible developer through the majority of my career, taking some time off now, but I might come back. And they never expect me to actually post on there. And I have an account, and I occasionally post. And sometimes it's like Beetlejuice. They'll just mention my name, and I'll just jump into a thread, and sometimes just completely derail the entire thread into some sort of random Q&A or some sort of other subject. But regardless, I like to think of myself as a force of chaos for that forum.
There's a big anonymous presence, and we allow that. We're totally fine with that. As long as you're participating, you can just act like a regular person, express your opinions, do your thing. That's totally fine. What's not fine is when you have a sort of disingenuous agenda. So we're not cool with that.
And the one gaffer who generates a steady chorus of alternating praise and derision is Wedbush security analyst Michael Pachter.
I've managed to place myself in a position of prominence. It doesn't mean I'm better than the other guys, although in fact I am. And it doesn't mean that more people actually listen to what I have to say, but in fact they do. I am really good at getting myself paid. I think it is shocking at how poor the understanding of how the business works is at NeoGAF. And I say shocking, I mean, I've probably seen out of the 10,000 posts I've read or 20,000 posts, I've probably seen fewer than 10 where the person posting actually understands how the industry works. They might say, oh, well, the company's trying to make a profit. Okay, I mean, I think most of them don't even get that. They don't actually get that these are businesses trying to make a profit.
It's a forum of very diehard influencers in the video game industry that are convinced that they know how to run the industry.
You can reason with a lot of people on GAF, but when it comes to sort of the consumer rights thing, I've always said the consumer should always be the number one, goal for us as developers to take care of. But we also have this business, and here's how the business works, and it doesn't matter how much you explain.
It's always a little difficult, but I try to provide maybe insider or industry perspective that isn't always as obvious in news or things that are being talked about, and sort of raise the curtain a little bit about what's going on.
Anytime you're really knowledgeable in the subject, you realize how much ignorance there is out there. And when you see people who have no knowledge of either, just from their outside perspective, lend their opinion, I often have to bite my tongue and remind myself not to try and tell them just how little I think their opinion is worth, just because it's not coming from a position of knowledge.
When we return with part 2 of A Perfect Little World, we'll continue exploring the real-world repercussions of what community members say and the fallout of how it personally affects game creators.
So I got really upset, he got banned, and ended up being someone that was like following me on Twitter and social media, and like out of nowhere, like randomly crawling out of the woodwork to like threaten me.
Previously on NeoGAF, A Perfect Little World, we took a brief look at what NeoGAF is. Now, let's look at how it works.
You can lurk, you can read posts, which is all like having kind of face pressed up against the window, but you don't get to contribute until you're accepted. So there is a certain amount of elitism, exclusivity, which I think is part of its allure. And then once you are in, people who step out of line are very, very quickly dealt with, I've seen, and that I think helps immensely with the quality of the discourse.
On NeoGAF you have a continuum of different opinions and viewpoints, and people expressing themselves in different ways. It's a huge website with, it gets like 50,000 posts per day. And we have 20 or so moderators to handle that job. We don't look at every single post and go, is this the epitome of civility? Like that. No, we can't. It's impossible to do that.
Is NeoGAF a victim of its own success? Has its rapid expansion negatively impacted the level of moderation that the site is heralded for?
I think the moderation has come down a little bit. I think it's still strict, but I don't think it's as over-encompassing. I think it's too big now.
As GAF increases in size, it's like how to manage the volume and of discussion.
And this begins the slippery slope of NeoGAF's codes of conduct.
And if you're going to look at the NeoGAF forum as a non-profit organization, if it does not reform itself, it's eventually going to start to crumble. And there's going to be a point where they step over the line where someone's going to shut them down. And that would be a loss for everyone. And I have to say to people, when I looked at the thread this morning, I saw a moderator ask, when someone said they like to human or I disagree with someone, are you stupid? This is a moderator. And so now we're not only are they're ad hominem attacks on people who have complete control over these forums, ultimate power. And the reason I'm saying this, and the question I have to ask to the moderators of the GAF, are you going to follow your own rules? Is people, if you posting people making GIFs of myself, okay, that are, I would say, attacking me, okay.
Personal attacks.
Personal attacks.
And you are a user, so they're attacking another forum user.
That's right.
Right.
Why haven't 180 people been banned now?
No, because people think it's funny.
They think it's funny, and the question is, okay, if I wanted to move in and shut that place down, do I have a grounds? It would be under their own forum policy.
Denis Dyack, the CEO of Silicon Knights, he, prior to the release of Too Human, he registered an account and was kind of just doing the standard sort of PR thing where he would go on NeoGAF, answer questions about his game and everything like that, and that's perfectly fine. And he created a thread called "Stand and Be Counted. Are you for or against Too Human?"
When you're talking about for and against, at the time our game was not out yet. I thought I would ask an impossible question, make it really short, but this wasn't. It's sort of there's no way anyone could answer this. I basically went out there and said, I think my game is going to be great. It's going to be very successful, and I will challenge people to say what the Metacritic's going to be. This game's not out, to be clear.
He called out the community and said that if the game was well received critically, that every person who said that they were against Too Human would have to have their custom title changed to Owned by Denis Dyack.
If people thought about the question, before, how can you judge a game before it's out? They'd go, I can't answer this question. A lot of people understood that, and a lot of people got it. A lot of people sure didn't.
After that, he went on the One Up Yours podcast, which was the biggest and best video game podcast at the time. And he broke out a laptop and he spoke for an hour with a prepared statement about how NeoGAF was the worst forum on the internet, how it should be shut down by the FBI.
If I wanted to move in and shut that place down, do I have a grounds? It would be under their own forum policy.
After he called for NeoGAF to be shut down, I made my own statement and publicly banned him permanently from NeoGAF.
I would never say that the fans, after interacting with the fans shut me down, because that's actually not what happened.
I banned him because after he went on the podcast, he went back on NeoGAF and acted like nothing had happened, and was continuing doing his PR stuff and interfacing with the community.
A lot of people asked me, was that like a marketing promotional thing? It wasn't. It was just something that, you know, I felt that people should start thinking about these things, and to some extent people thought about it. To a large extent people just ran with it, and it just caught on fire, and, you know, I guess spun in ways that people hadn't expected, including myself.
Having a NeoGAF account isn't a fundamental right. You know, you have to, you know, if you want to participate in the community, then, you know, participate in the community. You know, this sort of stuff, calling for it to be shut down, it's just not appropriate.
Being banned from NeoGAF was really, the person who runs it got offended with something that I said, and which I do think is somewhat ironic, because there are a lot of offensive things on that board. Generally in society, people think as technology advances, it's good. And there's this misnomer with cell phones and forums and television that communication generally has improved. And what really has happened is communication has changed.
Perhaps, as we crack the digital communication barrier, the lost in translation incidents on sites like NeoGAF will become a thing of the past. Dyack attributes this to what he calls reciprocity.
Anytime there's sort of face-to-face communication, generally it's positive. And I think really when you're looking at internet forums in general, one of the problems is the reduction of the bandwidth of communication that creates certain levels of negativity.
When considered truthfully, NeoGAF is just a window that allows anyone to peer into the intimate conversations of passionate gamers. The problem, however, is when the gaming industry comes into contact with NeoGAF's water cooler conversations.
Look at it. Whether if you're acting incredibly hostile, and just like, you know, calling for someone to be assaulted in the streets or something like that, or saying you wish they died, or, you know, using a bunch of expletives, something like that, we're gonna take care of you. If you're just expressing discontent about something, then there's nothing wrong.
People might not be, like newer members of GAF might not be aware of, you know, sort of this persona. I mean, it's not really a persona, but like a little bit of what my persona on GAF is, which is I'm generally a little bit more sarcastic. You know, I'm trying to have a comedic edge to it, and it just, GAF like lets you do that. Like you want to be a little bit funny and biting and stuff like that. And people may not be aware of it. And there was one time where I was talking about E3, and, you know, like I had like a sarcastic, like, you know, high and mighty sort of tone to one of my posts, and one user decided that he didn't know that I was joking, and he thought I was being serious, and he took it very offensively, and, you know, like really questioned whether I should be representing my company that way and that sort of thing. And so I took a step back and I apologized, you know, and I may have gone overboard with my apology because it may have seemed like I was really trying to take the piss out of him with my apology. So I got really upset. He got banned, and ended up being someone that was like following me on Twitter and social media, and like out of nowhere, like randomly crawling out of the woodwork to like threaten me.
It's important to kind of not keep your guard up, but you start to, you're one of them, but you're not one of them, you know, and it's important to kind of always remember it's like, and this is not a negative statement to them, this is more of a statement about what you as a professional in the industry have to sort of improve on, which is, you know, you're always going to be a little bit of an outsider, no matter how much you connect and share and private message and all that with these guys and girls. Ultimately, they're consumers who've spent money on your game, and if you let them down, they have every right to be pissed.
I know a lot of people I used to work with who get very emotional about that. And I mean, I have a skin that's made of adamantium. You can call me whatever you want. I've been dealing with this for over 20 years. But some of the more sensitive artist types who really work their butts off to make the characters look amazing or make the worlds look great, they take it personally. They take it very personally, and I just tell them to not read it. You know, at the end of the day, look at the review scores, look at the sales, and take that.
There was a thread about my saying that Nintendo may not recover from the Wii U launch, and it got so out of hand, I posted a really long, you know, 6-7 paragraph post explaining what I meant. And a lot of people were pretty positive, and this one guy posted, and I don't think he's wrong. I mean, what he said was actually thoughtful and articulate, but he posted about how Nintendo's in it for the long haul, and Nintendo shareholders aren't interested in short-term profits as long as there's long-term gain. all of that is valid and probably correct. But, you know, he kind of concluded with, I obviously can't read a balance sheet or a cash flow statement, and I've got an ethnocentric way of looking at business. You know, the guy was just condescending, and I thought, and he was lecturing me, it was supposed to me, about why Nintendo shareholders don't care if the company doesn't make profit for a few years. And he might be right about the particular group of people who own the stock right now. He's not right about the people who would consider buying it, because that's who I talk to every day.
I mean, you know, I think it's hard to tell because a lot of, like, GAF is a lot about hyperbole, right? Like, when you read negative posts, like, people tend to say, like, really, you know, biting or mean things, but it's really just sort of trying to express their displeasure or anger in maybe the most hyperbolic fashion.
When I see a movie and I don't like it, I kind of file away, okay, I don't like that actor, I don't like that director, or whatever. But I don't frickin' go onto a forum and post about how they had to commit suicide because they made the worst game and they robbed me of 2 hours of my life. Gamers do that.
In the final installment of NeoGAF, A Perfect Little World, developers discuss if the hardcore community is even relevant.
I don't even think a lot of them play games. I think a lot of them just sit there and comment on the various screenshots, the trailers, and speculations, as well as making insane animated GIFs with various executives from various studios.
Also, NeoGAF founder Tyler Malka reveals the inspirational story of how he saved his life outside of NeoGAF.
I had all this financial freedom and freedom to keep up with NeoGAF from wherever I was in the world, and yet I could barely get up a flight of stairs.
Previously on NeoGAF, A Perfect Little World.
Being banned from NeoGAF was really, the person who runs it got offended with something that I said. And which I do think is somewhat ironic because there are a lot of offensive things on that board.
So, how relevant is NeoGAF? Is it a tool for companies to gauge or engage the consumer? Is there value in that?
There's so many little tricks when you're developing that I think, I don't know if you look at a game that people are talking about and you can look at the read count or the number of people who have read it. And I've kind of gotten a really bad formula in my head of what that translates to sales.
Is it important to the industry? I think if it disappeared tomorrow, the industry would continue to tick along just fine. There are many other boards out there. But I do think it's important that I think it's one of the better boards. I think it's one of the better run, one of the better communities.
If you have the right perspective on the discussions that are on there and people's personalities and like the tone of discussion sometimes, I think it'd be really valuable.
We don't know as much as the collective wisdom of the 90,000 NeoGAF members. So I think it's great.
Any publisher and developer worth their salt putting out a AAA game in 2013 and beyond needs to know in order to win, you have to win the core over first, such as GAF. That is one of the many awesome forums you need to be on, as well as incite the masses, which usually involves pumping $50 million into marketing.
The real base of NeoGAF is the hardcore 18 to 35-year-old male. Defining what hardcore means is where things get interesting.
Define hardcore. If you're talking about somebody who goes to a Street Fighter competition, no, not all of them. But if you're talking about somebody who loves video games and they've gotten a membership and they're chiming in and having an opinion, I would call them a hardcore gamer.
It's a unique breed to post there, to want to post there, to be interested in all the games.
Do you guys even play games anymore? It's like you've turned the analyzation of the industry into its own metagame. I don't even think a lot of them play games. I think a lot of them just sit there and comment on the various screenshots, the trailers, and speculations, as well as making insane animated GIFs with various executives from various studios.
They're little, the GIFs.
Oh, the animated GIFs are awesome.
Holy shit. I literally is probably one of the consistent places on the internet I will go, and literally I'm laughing out loud at some of this shit. It's really good.
The entertainment factor alone would probably be worth paying for the website.
Perhaps the takeaway from NeoGAF is that it puts on no pretenses. Any titles of importance or real relevance have been placed upon it by an industry looking for something to easily label, and not by the people who use it and have made it a part of their daily lives.
I think NeoGAF is important to many people. I think there are a lot of people that if it disappeared tomorrow, might not know what to do with themselves. I might be one of them.
GAF for me is something that I like. It's not a job necessarily to be there. I think it's important to be there because I think it's a good community that deserves to have us represented there, but I do it because I like GAF.
It's a place where genuine friendships have been made, even those crossing the blurry lines between fans and professionals.
A NeoGAF member named Junkwaffle, Junkwafle, drew a cartoon, and it was like worst analyst ever or something, and the art was unbelievable. We exchanged email, IMs. It turns out he lived in New York, and I said, gosh, I'm going to be in New York in a couple of weeks. Your art's just amazing. I do an annual industry report. Would you like to do the artwork? My last paragraph of my acknowledgement is, finally, we feel we must call out NeoGAF.com and its members for challenging virtually everything we say as being wrong, and for making us rethink many positions over the years.
I think there have been many legendary moments on GAF that have kind of superseded its status as an internet board, where it does feel like there are moments of real human connection. Were I to post with like a serious real life issue that I wanted to talk to someone about, I think those people would be there for me, as they would for any poster.
Marriages have resulted, friendships have been made, enemies have been made, and it runs the whole gamut.
I don't know any of you personally, but I have to say I still feel an uncanny connection exists between us. I am literally living off of nothing without any real physical friends. This is not a cry for help. This is simply a farewell. I'm done.
Dude, if you're still here, I'm willing to give my number to you to talk about shit. PM me, please. Let's shoot the shit. Ain't time to give up yet.
We had one perception of Tyler before we interviewed him, which was false. Had we spent time in NeoGAF's fascinating off-topic community, we might have learned that Tyler, like the entire board, is much more than video games.
I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I do photography, I love to travel. I've traveled through Europe, the United States and everything, and met like hundreds of people from the community. They've shown me around, they've hosted me at their place.
If it sounds like Tyler lucked into NeoGAF, you're mostly right. He describes where he was in his life near the beginning.
I was working a retail job and going to college and trying to figure things out. In 2004, when everything went down with GAF and I had the opportunity to take it over, it wasn't a financial motivation to take it over. It was a passion, and I was volunteering, and I wanted to keep the community going because I was part of the community.
Today, Tyler Malka has been afforded a financial freedom due to NeoGAF, which allows him to live the life he has always wanted.
When I started running NeoGAF full-time, I sort of retreated into a lair, kind of, where I was just like running NeoGAF, sitting on the computer, not getting out much anymore. I bloated up to 300 pounds. I stopped being active, stopped doing anything. And then when NeoGAF started becoming successful, I had all this financial freedom and freedom to keep up with NeoGAF from wherever I was in the world, and yet I could barely get up a flight of stairs. So I had to turn things around, be active, be strict nutritionally, learn as much as I could about nutrition and the sort of lifestyle changes I would need to make.
Tyler told us that this interview was one of his last commitments in the United States. We had a follow-up email for Tyler, and his response made us smile. Currently, he's resting from a minor biking accident, but don't worry though. He's learning Muay Thai at an actual training camp in Thailand.
It's pretty much my life's work at this point. I've been running it for half my life and involved with it for half my life. So, I'm really passionate about it. I've, avoided selling out to big corporations, taking huge sacks of money and, buying a big yacht or whatever you would end up doing. That doesn't interest me. So I'm happy with what I've created. And I associate myself with that. I'm the owner of NeoGAF.
NeoGAF isn't a tool. It's one of the few places where gamers, real gamers, can speak freely with all of their social quirks and passions laid bare.
The thing about gaming communities is it's like the community itself creates a particular personality. It carves out its own niche. So even as things change, there's something about that draws people back to it.
There's kind of an egalitarian view that everyone's opinion is worth something, and that's rare in this business. I think NeoGAF to some extent breaks that window down and lets everyone interact equally, and that is important.
I have no intention of giving it up, but the internet might give it up. So we'll see what happens, but I can't say what's going to come in the future 5 years or 10 years down the road, and no one can. Like 10 years down the road, we'll all be wearing heads-up displays and not even talking to each other anymore, so what can you say?
Hey, what's up, GAF members? I want you to know that when I was working at Epic, I would read the forums religiously and I would sweat over every comment. And then I learned that on the internet, it's not cool to like something. It's actually cool to dislike something. And you could have any game that gets 1,100,000 reviews, and inevitably someone will chime into the thread and be like, it's not that cool. And that's just the nature of the internet. And I don't hate GAF. I don't love it. It's just a force of nature for driving the core into various games.
I think that they forget that these developers, and me too, are humans, and we have feelings. And so, the 1 post out of 10 saying, don't let it get you down, these guys are a bunch of turkeys, isn't good enough if 2 posts out of 10 say, you're a turkey. I don't want to hear, I'm a turkey, and I don't want to hear, I don't know what I'm talking about. But they seem to really get off on it, and again, my life would be absolutely complete if NeoGAF never started a thread with my name in it again, but that's not going to happen because I say outrageous things and they love to react. So again, my motto under my avatar is, he speaks and we freak.
How would you make GAF better?
I would there's not much you can do. I actually think even the more just separating off all those community threads might have made it better. It might have made it worse.
I wouldn't have done it.
I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't separate it anymore. I would leave it 1 page. I would maybe ban people that were mean, like really, really, offensively mean a little bit better, but they do a good job of that. Maybe I'd add a report button, but they'd probably just get inundated with reports all the time.
I'm going to give game trailers.
I don't know.
When you said that though, I had an idea. This is for game trailers. You can have this. It's going to be huge. Okay. So you basically do like a contest every year, like American Idol, and you end up getting like 12 people every year from GAF, and then you give them like $350,000 to go make their game. They can shut the fuck up. It's like, you know what, motherfucker, you can do better. Here's 350 grand. Here's your team of fellow gaffers here. I think that'd be awesome.
See all of our shows and game reviews now on the brand new GT app on Xbox Live and the GT Originals iOS app too.